Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Classic Gamer 74. I'm your host, Anthony Gamer, and this is the first episode in a month-long celebration where we look at the best of homebrews. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar, a homebrew game is a game that was made by an individual person or a couple people that don't work for a big game company or a game company, period. It usually is just one or two people working out of their homes. And some of these games that have been released over the years are just amazing. We have some very talented people in the homebrew community that have just released some bang-up games over the years, especially since I've been doing this channel. And of course, there's several names that I could drop, but you'll find out if you haven't seen some of my previous episodes about homebrews. I have a playlist set up where you can see some previous episodes where I have interviews with the homebrew programmers and I profile some of their work across different platforms. And that's what this celebration is going to be about. We're going to look at some great homebrews across several different platforms. And I'm going to let you know right now that I'm going to try really hard to not repeat games that I've talked about in other episodes, because there's several out there. I mean, I made lists and they're just going way into the hundreds, even thousands. So enough of my talking, let's get into the games.
Alright, and today we're going to focus on homebrews from the Atari 7800, probably, in my opinion anyway, the most underrated game system of all. In recent years, you've had some amazing homebrew programmers come up with some really great games for this system. I've talked about them in the past, but there's a couple that I missed, as every time you turn around there's more games coming out. And I'll tell you, one person once said that if some of these games had come out back in the day, maybe the 7800 would have been a bigger success. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments section below. Alright, so let's check out some of these homebrews. Alright, and our first game today is Super Pac-Man. Now, one thing I want to let you guys know is that all Pac-Man related games were made by the king of 7800 programmers, that is Robert DeCrescenzo. And this is an amazing port of that arcade game that wasn't a really big hit. You had that supersizing thing, you had the keys that unlocked the pellets you were going for. It was a cool game. I remember playing it in the arcade and I really enjoyed it. It's just a shame that it wasn't as well received as some of the previous games were. But I'll tell you, Mr. DeCrescenzo's masterpiece is coming at the very end of the video, so stay tuned for that one. Okay, and our next title is a really cool and original game called Hollywood Brawler. It was created by a gentleman using the name C. Otto, and we'll see him again in a little while. In this game, you're walking around beating up, as they put it, useless celebrities and other assorted people. Pretty cool to see a beat-em-up game on the 7800, especially one with an original concept like this. Fun game, and one that is strangely addictive. Alright, and next up we have Crazy Otto. Now, if this looks a lot like Pac-Man, it should. And for those of you that aren't familiar with what Crazy Otto is or was, Crazy Otto was the name of the kit, and it would not only add new levels, sound, and music, but it would also change the speed, the graphics, and the AI of the enemies of the game. That game was developed by Namco and was released in America on December 1980. So it was basically a mod or a hack of Pac-Man, but it was made by the company. And of course, our dear friend Robert DeCrescenzo created this masterpiece for the 7800. Next up, we have Bentley Bear's Crystal Quest, also created by Mr. DeCrescenzo. Now, many of you are probably familiar with Bentley Bear. He was the protagonist in the game Crystal Castle. Well, this game is more similar to Hudson's Adventure Island than the original Crystal Castles. Side-scrolling platformer, like a Mario-like game. Really nice job he did on the graphics, the gameplay. Anyone who is a fan of Mario-type games, you're going to enjoy this one. Alright, I do not know who wrote this game, created this game, but I've looked online, and I used to know, but I don't anymore. So if you are the programmer of this game, please let me know in the comment section below so that I can give you credit. This is known as the ET Book Cart. In this one, there are words of wisdom from E.T. and other proverbs and inspirational sayings from around the world. Really neat. Some really good stuff that if you're a teacher like I am, you could put these up and and share with students and friends and family. So a pretty cool concept. I believe it's not complete. I don't know if there is a more complete version. I hope there is because I enjoyed a lot of the stuff on here. Next up, we have a totally original game. This is a directional shooter. It's called Time Salvo. This was made by a gentleman named Mike Sarna. In this game, you are shooting these killer robots and other things, and there's a lot of nods to 80s sci-fi, Space Invaders, Berserk, lots of nods to other great video games, but this one is totally original. The colors are great. The gameplay is great. The controls are great. Just an amazing game and definitely one you need to check out. Next up, we have another original game. This is Alpha Race by Brixius. This one, you're not really racing. I don't get the feeling. You're kind of flying around that square and shooting at stuff. Yeah, it's not much of a race. I don't know where he got the race from, but regardless, it's a pretty cool game. The graphics themselves are pretty simple, but sometimes simpler is better, especially if it's fun, and this game is. Next, we have a game from the sick and twisted mind of a programmer who I really admire, and his name is Franco Dragon, and this is Pooper. Yep. It's kind of like that game Crackpots, but instead of dropping flower pots on people, you're trying to hit them with your poop, hanging your ass over the side of the building and dropping a load. Yep. Lots of good, clean fun for everyone. If this sounds like it's a lot, if it sounds to you like this game's a lot of fun, it is. It really is. Next, we have a bizarre game, but one that actually has been ported out quite a few times, and that is Robot Finds Kitten, and it was programmed by a gentleman using the handle Shaggy the Atarian. Now, for those of us that remember the very early days of computer programming, this game should bring back a sense of nostalgia. A lot of these characters were from back in the day. We used to use them for the oldest and the basic programming. So for those of us of a certain age, we will get the appeal, but I think anyone younger probably will not. If this next game looks kind of familiar to you, well, it should. It's a play on that immortal game Boulder Dash. This is Apple Snapple, and it was programmed by Mark Ball. You seem to be this little elf, dwarf, or whatever, fairy, whatever he is, and you're trying to catch all the apples without getting squished by the boulders. Pretty much a cuter version of Boulder Dash, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. And next up we have Pac-Man Plus. I'll give you a guess who made this one. This game is really interesting as it takes two screens. The maze is not just one, it's two screens, kind of similar to what you had on the Sega Genesis version. And boy, these ghosts move really, really fast. So this is definitely a game for the more advanced Pac-Man player, as a casual Pac-Man player is not going to do well on this. But if you are a so-called Pac-Man expert, this is definitely the game for you. Next, we have another bizarre but yet original game. This is Big Burrito. The idea was by Keith Carlson and was programmed by Clark Otto. In this game, you are picking up chimichangas for your fat boss, and you have to feed them to him. The only problem is you have to pick up a chimichanga, get across 6 screens, keep from getting hit, and keep feeding him. Yep. And eventually he'll disappear, and then you move on to the next level. Really imaginative and fun game. Kind of brings to mind kind of a Keystone Capers kind of feel, but definitely kind of an Activision kind of vibe to it. Really original game, and one that I enjoyed playing. Before we get into our final game, I know some of you are probably wondering, where can I purchase these games? I have a working 7800, and I like to add them to my collection. Well, for the most part, there's only one place to go for all your Atari needs. and that is AtariAge.com. So head over to the Atari Age store and get some 7800 games, some 2600 games, 5200, whatever you're looking for. If you're in the way of homebrews, they got them there. Now, if, for instance, they don't have some of the games that were featured here today that you're looking for, the best place to get them is directly from the programmers. So go into the Atari Age forums, join up, and hunt down the programmers themselves. They'll be happy to help you. And while you're there, say hi to me. My username is ClassicGamer74. Now, our final game for today is one that a lot of people thought would never be ported. Of course, there were some arcade games that we were surprised did get ported, and sometimes it was better off that they didn't. But there was one game in particular that a lot of people thought would never be ported. And do you know what that game is? And that is the unique game Baby Pac-Man. Now, why would it be so hard to port Baby Pac-Man? Well, this was a hybrid arcade game and pinball machine. So you had aspects of both. You had the arcade game at the top, and then in the game you would go down these slots, and then you would have to play pinball. So, of course, the idea was kind of novel, like, oh, wow, is it possible to do it? Well, generally no, and you probably couldn't even play. You can play it on MAME, but you're going to be disappointed because when you go down those tubes, there's no pinball machine. So, yep, it's definitely a game that many people thought would never be ported. But guess what? It was. And I think you can guess who that person was. All right, so let's have us a look at it. And, yep, it looks just like the arcade. Now, watch. You go down that tube, and look, he's already made the pinball game right there. Kind of brings back memories of that really fun game. What was that called that we used to play? Video pinball. Yep. So, was it worth the wait? Oh, heck yes. Great job, as usual, Mr. DeCrescenzo. You've got a winner here in Baby Pac-Man, a game that many of us thought would never, ever get a port, and it finally has. And you're looking at it right here. In our next episode, we're going to continue on with our homebrew celebration as we will look at some great homebrews for the ColecoVision.
Well, that brings this episode of Classic Gamer 74 to a close. I really hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, let me know by giving me a big thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to click that little bell icon down there so you'll be notified when I upload new stuff. Also, please support me on Patreon. I got some episodes on there that you can't find anywhere else, and some other bonus stuff that you're going to really enjoy. It doesn't matter what level of Patreon you are, you will always get access to all the cool stuff. So please be generous and help us out on Patreon. The link is in the description below. Well, until next time, I'm Anthony Gamer, and I wish you all a great week. Until next time, be strong, be safe, be happy, be healthy, and above all, take care of each other, be kind to each other, and stop hate of all kinds. See you soon. Bye, everyone.